Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another fantastic, amazing, fantabulous, unbelievable, educational, mind-blowing Vedius VOD review. Today we're going to be looking at Fnatic versus Vitality. If you're watching on the YouTubes, you should really watch on Twitch. The chat is amazing. They ask really informative questions like how tall am I and what color is my hair. So you're really, really missing out. But anyway, thank you very much for tuning in to the VOD regardless. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the draft. So, Fnatic versus Vitality. Starting off with the bans. So we see a Draven ban thrown towards Attila. That's not really surprising. He gets it pretty much every week. Twitch chat is now asking me how tall you are. Anyway, Kiana ban. I think we talked a little about it in the cast. I think Fnatic don't play Kiana, or they don't want to. It could have been that they just prefer the Yuumi Prio and they don't expect Vitality to ban it as well. So I think this was more about the they just don't want to prioritize Kiana. There are other things that have a higher priority, which is probably Yuumi and Karma. So I shouldn't say that they don't know how to play it, because I would assume that these two, Nemesis and Bwipo, can probably play Kiana. But it looks like that if they're banning it here, not only do they just not want Vitality to play it, because we've already seen them play it top at least, that they don't want to first pick it. And the Fiddlesticks ban, I think they just don't want to deal with it bot. I also think Fiddlesticks can be quite good into Yuumi, I think, because there's very little she can do to stop this guy just from killing you. Yeah, so I think that one's also very specific towards Jackdaw, so that's fine. Twisted Fate, Aatrox, and Rakan, all very Fnatic bans. But of course they do leave the Yuumi open, which is naturally the first pick. So nothing too surprising in this ban table. The fact that Karma was left open could be a bit of a question mark. I don't know if Vitality necessarily needed to ban the Aatrox personally. I would debate this one, maybe even this one. But I guess they just don't want to have to deal with it. I think there are so many picks into Aatrox that you can play. And I think I would have preferred a Yuumi ban, maybe. And then they would have just first picked Karma, and you know they're going to first pick Karma. So you get quite a few liberties in the draft. But in any case, they probably assume the Yuumi pick as well, which is what this pick is, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. So Vitality go for Lucian Karma. Of course, the Karma can be flexed everywhere. Pardon me. And because it's Vitality, they're more likely to play it top than anywhere else. That's just the assumption that you would make here. Corki Lee Sin. So the Lee Sin was a little surprising to me. I think Fnatic just wanted to really prioritize getting a strong early jungle. I didn't say it when I was casting, but the risk that they had here was that Vitality could have just locked in Olaf. Of course, they still get the Olaf later, but the lock-in of Olaf would have just immediately meant that you lose early jungle skirmishes and prio in a lot of instances. So I think it was a little risky to lock in Lee, but it's not the end of the world, right? It's just that you're now going for an early game playstyle. Now you already have a strong bot lane with the Yuumi. You want to pad that up with like a decent AD carry. Pardon me, excuse me, I'm burping a lot for some reason. Yeah, I don't think the Lee Sin is a terrible pick. I just think that there was risks associated with it. But the Corki, very safe blind, very, very safe. Vitality, the lock in the Sylas. The great thing about Sylas is he can be flexed into both mid and jungle. Typically, you want the Sylas into the Corki matchup. We've seen it multiple times, especially early levels. You can actually do really well in terms of gaining pressure, and you can trade really effectively. But you do have the liberty of going into the jungle, and I think that Sylas into Lee Sin will outscale. Stealing away the kick is pretty good. But one thing that Ender talked a lot about, maybe Dracos, one of the two, was how like you're kind of looking at this comp and you think to yourself, what ults do I steal? And you think, okay, I can steal Yuumi and I can steal Lee Sin, that's fine. But later on in the draft, but also Sylas stealing away the Corki ult is also really good, because I think you get max rockets and your passive will proc every time you throw out a rocket. So like that's also why the matchup is really good. So Vitality's draft, pretty open-ended, has a lot of flexibility in it, has a lot of freedom to change, whereas Fnatic's is kind of already suggesting that they're looking to play around the bot side of the map. You know, you'd kind of think like maybe an 8-minute dive with Corki with package, Lee Sin bot, depending on what they pair up with the Lucian. If it's Karma Lucian, then it's going to be difficult to get prio because they could go for something safe like an Ezreal, but of course Vitality choose to ban that one away. This is probably the best ban you can do because this is what Fnatic you would expect to do, because if you have Ezreal Yuumi, it goes from being a super aggressive bot lane into a pretty safe one. They can land a lot of poke, which means that it gets really difficult for like a Lucian to threaten dive because of how much harassment that you put down. But also just in terms of trade patterns, this gets really difficult to close the gap on. So this is a good ban. The Aurelia ban, I think, was because there was potential for Corki to go bot lane with the Yuumi, and Vitality were afraid of Nemesis playing Aurelia into the Sylas, which, given that he lost his E-Shield, I think is now a much worse matchup, and him stealing Aurelia's ultimate, he can't really do a lot with it. So I think that's why they chose to ban the Aurelia. Braum plus Pyke, those two are just strong supports that both work very well with the Lucian that they wanted to get rid of, that helps give power. They're already assuming that the Karma isn't support. To be fair, like, I don't remember the last time we even saw Karma support, so, you know, I should stop saying that it is played support. Pretty much only ever see it top or mid these days. Or bot, I suppose, if you're Fnatic. So, the Volibear pick is pretty cool. We see it a lot over in the LCK. It has a lot of all-in power, and its biggest strength is in lane because of the survivability that he has, the engage that he has. You can keep using Hex Flash because you sit in a brush and then you Hex Flash and then you flip them. Something that Ender noted was that you can use your E to interrupt the dash because it's a small knockback, which is pretty cool. So if Yuumi ever walks out, you can catch her off guard there. You also have that extra bit of execute damage, which is always good, but Lucian Volibear, very powerful 2 versus 2, a lot of all-in potential. Then this is, of course, where we see the Garen. Now, the thing about Garen, which I didn't know at the time, right, is that later this comp scales, right? Ultimately, how this Garen works is that he becomes a frontline to allow the Yuumi to just basically just be constant poke, but also he just acts as a good frontline overall. And I think the idea of Garen in lane is that he's very difficult to kill because he naturally gets a lot of sustain from his passive, which means that even though he takes a lot of harassment, he shouldn't really ever be forced out of lane. Now, I think one of the risks that he has is that, pardon me, this all-in lane is pretty effective. And because of the level 1 shenanigans and him losing his flash, it ends up putting him in a pretty awkward spot. So, like, we'll look at it more in depth, but I think the whole point of Garen Yuumi is that it shouldn't really be killed in lane. It's pretty safe. You even have some gank setup and threat, because you land the Yuumi Q, you can then run them down with the silence, and then a jungler comes in, gets a kill, you have an execute. Like, you do lots of damage, right? With jungle assistance anyway. But I think against this duo, it's a little risky, but of course what we learned in the game was that this is much more about scaling rather than lane. And so even though Garen falls off, he ends up actually not falling off. So then we see the Jace. Now, you would assume again, Fnatic, given that they've seen the Volibear pick, they still don't know what's going where. The Sylas could still be jungle. The Karma could be mid, the Karma could be top. But Jace is a very safe top laner. Doesn't really have bad matchups. Irelia is gone. Aatrox is gone. And even into Aatrox, I think he's fine. So, like, I think the Jace is just a very safe blind pick that you can play top. And it's a lane you can also play around. So, given that you don't probably want to play around the Garen Yuumi lane, you want to look to make plays up top. So, you have a carry top threat in the early game that you want to try and get ahead. You can also then use that 8-minute Corki package to potentially look for a roam top. Also, it's pretty easy for Jace to get priority in a lot of matchups, which means that you can set up for flank TPs around bot lane, and you imagine that this Garen Yuumi is going to get pushed in. So once we get into game, we'll keep track on like how Bwipo utilizes his TP. Meanwhile, Vitality ran things out with the Olaf. Now, we talked a little bit about the Olaf earlier, how Olaf does really well into Lee Sin. He has a much faster clear. When you have lanes like Lucian Volibear, who gain priority early on, along with the Sylas that should gain priority over the Corki, you as an Olaf have a lot of freedom to set up invades. So in the early game, Broxah shouldn't really have much of an opportunity to play. In terms of how this comp works, it's very important that they get ahead early, because their damage is actually somewhat mitigated. Once you get to 3 items, I feel this comp actually loses a lot of damage. The thing about Karma in the late game is she can enable AD carries, especially carries like Lucian in the mid. But in the late game, you want her to be enabling hyper carries, which isn't really what Lucian is. So I feel like the later the game goes, the harder it is to engage. And what we learned in the game is that this comp doesn't actually have a huge amount of engage. Sylas doesn't really have any ults that he can steal. He could, in theory, steal Jace's kit and then use the accelerator gates to then speed your team up. But there's so much disengage on this team that it's really hard for this team to engage. So basically, Vitality's comp has to get ahead early. They ideally want the Lucian and Volibear lane to be ahead. And they want Olaf to try and shut down the Lee Sin to prevent him from playing around his lanes. With the advantage that Olaf and Lucian Volibear gain, you then want to look to snowball, which they can do pretty effectively, because this comp takes ages to come online. Garen is known as pretty much, I don't even know if he has a strong early game in lane. I've seen people die to Garen 1v1, especially at level 6. But even then, Garen's main role in this comp is to just be a tank. I think Fnatic have opportunities to play around top, but their whole comp is about poke. Poke, chip, disengage, poke, chip, disengage, poke, chip, disengage, poke, chip, disengage. And you use the fact that you can split up the map with things like Corki and Jace to create windows where you can force Vitality to split up. All that's really important, though, is that they just don't fall behind early. And then they effectively outscale, because this comp can never engage onto that comp. So, yeah. That's the TLDR. Vitality need an early game lead. Fnatic are unkillable late game. Fnatic should look, in an ideal world, to play around the Jace top, because it doesn't really matter if the Garen gets ahead or not. We've already seen in this game that, all that matters is that Garen gets tanky, which is really easy to do. And then they scale, and then they poke, and then they're really obnoxious. If they fall behind, though, I think it's really difficult to stop this comp. Really difficult. So does anyone have any questions regarding the draft? You can ask me questions. Vitality had to flex and pick Vayne. Lucian top, Karma mid, size jungle, Vayne last pick bot with volley, because she's really good against Garen plus Yuumi. Well, I think the Lucian was good against Garen Yuumi. I don't think they needed to flex it at all. I think the matchup is fine. I think it can do exactly what it needs to do. The difference is that Vayne would scale. But even then, Vayne can't do anything against this comp. How is she ever going to get in range? Do you know why mage supports are used so little? Not relevant to this draft. Isn't Lee just a comfort pick for Broxah at this point? I mean, for sure. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad pick, because it does also synergize with this idea of disengage. And it's a pretty effective early skirmisher that I think works well with the likes of a Jace. So I don't think it's terrible. It also acts as a pseudo form of engage. I don't think it's the best engage, but of course if you get that kickoff, then it's really good. So after Yuumi Corki, why didn't Vitality go for some super hard engage like Triforce Edge? I don't know. It's a good question. Remember that this draft from Fnatic is super weak early. It's really weak. Even Karma into Jace top is pretty even. They just push waves back and forth all the time. Jace should never really kill a Karma, and Karma never really has kill threat in any lane. So Vitality have a lot of power early game, and so they're basically their win condition is a little narrow, but it's actually very easy for them to get an early lead if they play aggressively enough. So I don't think the Olaf is a bad pick. They're just not thinking that they want to scale. That's just not their mindset. Wouldn't Gragas be more flexible for Fnatic in this situation? Yeah, maybe. Gragas could also work. Maybe they were a little worried about being AP heavy because they had Corki and Yuumi already and they weren't sure how the rest of their draft would look. Because if they got Karma, they may have considered putting Karma Yuumi bot. I don't know. Probably not, but... Yes, Gragas could have worked. Have you heard what Puppa said about the Garen bot lane? I have not. Does the current meta enable Fnatic to keep not playing AD carries? Is that good or bad for them at large? I can answer that question at the end, but right now I'm focusing on the draft. I'm personally surprised Fnatic shy away so much from like some Akali, Kiana, Aurelia when on blue side thoughts. It's probably because they can't flex them between two roles. Or they're not confident enough to play that style. Or they don't trust the jungler enough. Because like if you're going to play those champions, you have to have really good synergy with your jungler. What do you think about casters completely misanalyzing stuff? Don't see how that's relevant to this draft. Karma's a bad pick without a hyper carry. I think it's just a safe blind. I don't think they need a hyper carry. And also I think it's like really strong in the mid game. I think that it enables Lucian very well, especially if he has a lead. It falls off later with the rest of the comp. So anyway, let's get into the game. That's enough questions about draft. Alright. So we know some level 1 stuff happens. So this is a pretty good ward from Fnatic to spot out a potential invade. Now at this point, Fnatic have a few options, right? So before I get into the options, notice how Vitality have dropped this ward here. So in the event that they get spotted, they are prepared, but they're prepared because they have this ward. Notice as well that Mowgli also has Sweeper, so does Broxah. So both junglers are kind of setting up for early game shenanigans. But the whole point of this invade from Vitality is to try and get a head start. Because what Mowgli could do is he could do red, straight into his red, put Broxah really far behind, have like, be really far ahead in terms of jungle advantage, or he could even split the map. And he could completely deny Broxah from getting towards the bot side. And just fully enable this duo to completely destroy the Garen Yuumi. Right? So, the invade from Vitality makes a lot of sense. Now Fnatic have options. Because they collapsed all in the bot side, they could just base, give up that, and then look to do a delayed invade towards top side, so then you do split the map and Broxah ends up being safe. Or you can look to collapse. Personally, I think collapsing is dangerous, because of how strong this comp is in the early game. I think Olaf is really strong. I think Volibear plus Lucian is really strong. And Garen doesn't really do much damage at level 1. Brox is okay. Bwipo is okay. But like, even then, I just think this has so much more damage. And it's so much stronger. So, Fnatic see all this. And then Vitality knows that they know because the sweeper comes out. So, Vitality now know, okay, Fnatic have seen all of this. So if they know we're here, let's just group up and let's just do this. Right? What they don't know is where Fnatic is. So Fnatic, by keeping Whippo bot, feel that they can win this because they have a numbers advantage. So the Corki comes down. Does he get spotted at all? See, the Silas is like, the Corki's not in lane, I'm coming to cover. So he just hangs around. He knows he has time. He sees the Corki. He knows the Corki's collapsing. They then get information that Fnatic is collapsing. So again, remember that it's 5 versus 4 in this situation, and the Karma is top lane. So what the Karma wants to do is... Wait, what did actually Karma do? So the Karma just kind of hung around red. And you can see he's just hanging out just outside of vision. And they're like, maybe Fnatic is looking to trade for our red. Maybe they've gone base and they've pathed up top and they could be doing our red right now. So, you can see that Vitality is pretty aware of all of the options that Fnatic have, but at the same time, they see Reckless collapsing. So, Attila disengages. Problem for Mowgli is he throws his axe away from him so he doesn't get all that extra damage. He ends up getting chunked out. He smites the red buff very early. But the only reason right now why Fnatic is winning is because they have more people. So, Mowgli gets chunked out, but Broxah, he's getting chunked out just as equally. Broxah then uses his smite on the red buff, whereas Mowgli used it earlier, and he was ignited, so that ends up being that. And then they end up trading 1 for 1. Reckless ends up securing the red buff. He ends up not dying to Attila, which is a real shame for them. Because if he got red buff here, then maybe he can cut out of this situation. I understand why Jackdraw flashes in. But even then, he was probably going to die because the rest of his team disengages. So both junglers kind of get screwed in this situation. Neither one of them get the red buff. However, for Mowgli, he's pretty happy because he can just now move into his half of the map. You'll notice that the Karma is able to get Prio top, and Bwipo is forced to use his TP really early. So this is also really good for Vitality. Attila just TPs back into lane, so does the Garen. So they're pretty even on bot, while Jackdaw has the red buff. So in terms of early power, this is pretty even for both sides. But it's really advantageous for Vitality because so many summoner spells were burnt on the side of Fnatic. Which is why, when we backtrack, this was a really risky play to make from Fnatic. Because again, the early game comp from Vitality is just stronger, objectively. So the fact that they lost all those summoner spells could really hurt them, which we will very much likely see. So you can see here, Jizuke gets an early level 2. I think he was back to lane first. You can see bot lane is being pushed in, top lane is relatively even, Cabochard has a bit of an XP advantage. And then we get this whole replay to come through. I don't care too much about like how the replay played out. I just care more about the decision making behind whether the play was smart or not. So now Attila and Jackdaw get the bounce back, which is a really big deal. So look at where Mowgli is right now. He's done blue buff into Gromp into Wolves, and now because of the delay, he's going to hang around and wait for the Scuttle Crab to spawn, right? This means that he's pathing around the bot side of the map, ready for the bounce back that Attila and the Jackdaw have. So what they did was they TP'd into lane, they hard pushed this wave, Reckless and Hylissang can't do anything about it, and because the wave hits the tower, the wave then bounces back the other way. This means that Attila and Jackdaw only have to last hit minions, and the wave will slowly start to push towards them. That means that they can start zoning away the Garen and the Yuumi from all this farm, all this experience, and because they have no summoner spells, it sets up a very easy bot lane gank. So you can see that Mowgli's pathing is also indicating that. I'm going to hang around bot side, I'm going to make sure that we can either protect you in the event that Broxah tries to help, excuse me, or we can just kill them. However, Jackdaw takes things into his own hands and just forces an all-in using the Hex Flash. It's not the end of the world, but then the wave ends up pushing. So this is, of course, your other option. Rather than just play for the bounce back, you can just keep shoving waves under the tower and you can play for plates. This is a little riskier, of course, because you are constantly at risk of a gank because you're so pushed up in the lane. But you also have the potential payoff of you can harass the enemy underneath their tower, which is nice. And you can also work towards getting plates. Personally, I think Attila and Jackdaw, given the short range of Lucian and the all-in power of a Volibear Lucian, it's much better if they get the bounce back, which is why I think Jackdaw's all-in there was just a little preemptive. I don't think they needed to force it. And again here, I think that he's trying a little too hard to force it, but Attila plays that really well. Whoop. Okay, so the red buff doesn't do what it does in TFT. There's no healing reduction. But press the attack gets propped. And Reckless doesn't have flash. So, I mean, like, I think they could have waited for the wave to bounce back a little bit more. But even then, they find those all-ins. And now remember that I was telling you Mowgli's already pathed towards bot. They also get to see... When did they see... Wait, do they see Broxah top? No, they don't. They don't actually know he's top. But because Mowgli invaded and he sees the Raptors are up, he's like, yeah, he's probably topside. So they find this kill. They may have even been setting up for a dive initially anyway. It's always risky against the Garen because of how tanky he is. Now they know the Brox is top. So now they're like, okay, we can definitely go for a dive. It's only a cat. And then Jackdaw gets his regeneration as well. Excellent dive. Very well played by Vitality. So this early game is going exactly the way that we expected it to. Or, sorry, exactly the way that Vitality wanted it to. Remember how we said in the draft, Vitality have a very strong early game comp. They have potent early all-in in the bot lane. And it went even better for them because even though it was 2 for 2 at the level 1, they burnt all these summoner spells, which is really good for this team. So they're off to a very good start. Broxah has only cleared his topside camps. And the The frustrating thing about Broxah here is that, so you can just look at this jungler and see Mowgli has blue buff, right? So this leads to one of two conclusions. Wait, he's only level 3 as well. Wait. I don't know, I wonder if I'm jumping too many leaps in logic to sit there and say the fact that he doesn't have red suggests that he hasn't taken red. I'm debating. And I'm also thinking. Because, like, it's easy for me to say, right? Because I get to see everything. Oh, the ping does come down. Oh, see? So they assume that... Okay, Broxah does do it. It's fine. There you go. Okay. I jumped to conclusions. My initial thought was right. Broxah ended up doing the right thing. He's fine. And they set up the dive. Alright, so Broxah steals away the red buff. Good stuff. So now the wave is bouncing back once again. BF sword completed for Attila. He's insanely strong. Vitality's really strong. Trying to think. I think the only thing right now that's not making this a 1k gold difference is the fact that Kleptomancy on Nemesis probably. And I suppose there's not actually a farm discrepancy in the bot lane. Even though they found 2 kills, they're actually even in terms of farm, so the only goal difference is actually the kills. So, let's think. 6 minutes in, what do we want to see next? So summoner spells are starting to come back up for everyone. It obviously now becomes a lot harder to gank. However, the all-in power of this bot lane from Vitality is still very potent. So I think that, given that red buff is spawning soon, Vitality would want to keep the pressure up around bot side, and then just maintain even top. You can see that Cabochard, he's flashless, so he's the one that has to be the most careful, because he's not going to get jungle support. And the risk of a dive is very real, especially in 2 minutes time. Nemesis will pick up the package. So Fnatic, their goal is probably to look to trade for top tower, whereas Vitality, I think that they want to look to continue playing around bot side of the map. Pardon me. God, I'm just burping like a madman. So Cabochard actually TP's top. Whippos will be up in about 2 minutes. So there is a window here, a big window. See, so... So Broxah paused bot. So I don't know if he knows if the Krugs were up, alright? I don't know where he gained that information. But like, he passed bot to Krugs, okay? So just keep an eye on Broxah. Watch Broxah, watch Broxah. So you can see that he pans into his own jungle. Red, checks if Krugs are there, does Krugs, right? But even then, right, he's cleared his full top side, and these Krugs haven't died yet. So obviously in an ideal world, he wants these dead. But even then, he's only level 4, and he has no flash. So him playing around bot, I'm not entirely sure what he gains from this. Because in a 3v3, they lose. And he can't threaten Drake unless he's going to potentially steal it. And like, he can't stop a gank happening. He just makes it worse. So, I suppose if he does Krugs into like topside, then it's fine. But he doesn't. He bad spot, I think. So I'm just trying to think what he could be thinking, if I'm missing anything. So you see what I mean here? Does Lee Sin being here stop this kill? Maybe. Maybe I misread. But you see what I mean though, right? They don't win this 3 versus 3. And all that happens is Reckless is forced to flash. If Jackdaw uses a W, he doesn't find a kill here, but mission accomplished. All of Fnatic's bot lane summoner spells are down. This is exactly what we said we thought would happen within the next 5 minutes. And I thought the Fnatic would look to try and play around topside. Maybe look for a trade. Okay, I don't know who you are, but you're annoying me. This dude is just talking to himself. Yeah, because I'm doing a VOD review. I'm not reading chat. You can have a timeout. There we go. Shh, 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 shh. Wonderful. I suppose due to the lack of flashes, but in any case, what now happens, you see, is his jungle gets invaded on. Of course they do, because they've just won a trade. He gets his health back, but in terms of this situation, they have no summoner spells, and Reckless isn't strong enough to stop this invade. And Jizuka has pressure mid. So, like, this red invade is happening. There's nothing that Broxah can really do about it. So I feel like he should just be clearing his top side. Because he's just sitting here watching. And if you're just watching someone do something, then I feel like you're doing the wrong thing. Now, admittedly, you can debate, right? Him being bot, maybe that did save them, maybe it didn't. Debatable. For now, we can give Broxah the benefit of the doubt and say, sure, he was able to clear out his Krugs, and he was able to protect his bot lane. However, now he should just path up towards topside, or base, and reset. I can't believe he face checks this. Like, the mid death isn't great. But him face checking this is just... What did he think would happen? I don't know. That was really terrible. I'm not quite sure how he won that 1v1 mid either. Yeah, so Mowgli's now level 6, by the way. Where did Broxah get 5 from? Just being... Where does he get that XP from? Oh, because Jackdaw died, that's why. That's where he gets it from. Okay. Like, Mowgli's so far ahead now. Jizuke won a 1v1 mid. This face check is so bad. I mean, the 1v1 death isn't great, right? But Broxah, rather than face checking, also could have just been there to cover his mid laner. So now Broxah comes top. I mean, it's really late. But I think he could have been playing around topside this entire time, because Kavashad hasn't had flash. So what happens to Kavashad? Oh, he just overextends. Yep, that was just a big mistake from Kavashad. Broxah still hasn't cleared out his topside jungle. I don't know. Some of the decision making from Broxah has not been great over the last few weeks. So, Let's think now. Let's think. Does Volibear interrupt both Lee, Q, and W? Well, given that it's a slight knockback, I think it can, yeah. He doesn't say Nemesis dies because he thinks Brock's just carrying both into, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Anyway, yeah. Let's think about what next steps are. Because this is the best way to learn about League of Legends. So, given the current map state, Vitality is 1k gold up, right? As we kind of expected, Fnatic has an advantage topside. Mainly because Cabochard, he lost his flash early and then he overextends without flash, so that was a mistake on his part. But Vitality have a huge advantage bot. So Vitality really want to keep playing through bot. In an ideal world, they actually want to set it for Drake now. And given that they also got a solo kill mid, like, topside should be completely irrelevant to them. They don't care about topside at all. So Fnatic should just keep playing through bot. However, the one answer that Fnatic do have is that because Bwipo is strong, he still has teleport, and he's getting plates. So what he could look to do within the next few minutes is base in the expectation that that Vitality will look to continue playing through bot lane. That means that the moment Vitality hard commit bot, they can look for a flank TP from behind, which is what this ward is here. So, Vitality have to be very conscious of this TP being up, and if they want to avoid the potential TP play, then they should force Drake to try and get the TP out from him. Yes. Once they get the Drake, they could actually look to swap. Because it's all well and good putting this Garen behind, but he's already behind. This Lucian's already really strong. What you want to do is you want to keep snowballing your advantage. So Vitality should actually be playing for the Drake so they can secure it. Then they want to look to swap, play around topside. Given that we're approaching the 10-minute mark, they can lane into Bwipo, or these two can go back up towards top, and then they can start playing for Herald. And then Mowgli starts playing through top jungle. The only mistake Vitality could make right now is if they tried to force another fight here, and then Bwipo gets a flank in from behind. So, that's what I think should happen over the next few minutes. So we'll keep our eyes out. So, the Drake gets started. Jizuke roams bot. That ward gets cleared out. That's pretty important. Jizuke goes for this collapse. I don't agree with this. Oh, okay. So again, we were literally just saying the mistake that Vitality can make is that they commit to a fight in bot lane, which they don't need to do. They just go for the Drake and then they swap, right? So we can already see, remember we talked about it, Bwipo will go back to base, spend his gold, and then TP in. Remember also that I think the Corki has the package right now, and Lee Sin is already pathing towards bot. So yes, they get 2 kills here, which is great, but they lose Drake, and Mowgli dies. So in terms of objectives, Fnatic is actually really happy. Now, because they find those 2v2 kills, they can keep playing for bot plates, but now they run the risk of getting collapsed on. They can't fight this. They shouldn't fight this. Okay. They're still bot lane. They should just base now. Personally, I don't think this is worth it for Vitality. I don't think getting those kills makes them stronger than just securing that Drake. I mean, like, sure, in the short term, but, like, that Garen isn't even worth a huge amount of gold right now because he's 0-2. And again, just putting the Garen further behind doesn't make a huge difference. And Mowgli was just solo doing Drake. So now they swap, as we said. So we expected this swap to come through. He now doesn't have teleport. His TP will be up soon. Very few teleports available except for Nemesis's. So now Vitality play through topside and they look to play for Herald. That's the next objective. Whereas Fnatic are doing what they can because they got early push. Wait. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I was looking at the minimap. I didn't even notice they were killing each other in mid lane. So Bwipo's here. He just tries to all in. I mean, he nearly kills Jizuke, but even then, he trades 1 for 1? Is that really worth it? I don't know. That was bad. That was really, really bad. What the hell, man? Why would you make this play? Who's... Okay, look at the minimap. Question mark ping. That's blue, right? They're like, they could be here. He has no vision of topside river. Then he all ends. Again, he nearly gets the kill, but it would have been 1 for 1. I don't agree that that would have been worth it. Well, I have vision on reckless now. Okay, so I think you just sacked the... Oh, Cabo Shard. God damn it. Alright. That's also really bad. Alright, both top laners playing really badly this game. So Cabochard, I understand why he's pushing, but now he has no control over the bottom half of the map. His entire team is top lane. And he's... This is the second time he's overextended this game. And while this time he has Flash, Corki has Package. So that wasn't very good. Now they go for Herald. So push in mids. You know jungler was bot. You've already seen the package used. So for the most part, what we expected to happen in the early game has happened. And Vitality still have a really strong lead. Now. Fnatic seen them hit the plant lol. They know for a fact someone is there. Well, that's a good point. Thank you for pointing that one out. That's a good point. Why does Vitality swap and not stay in push? So, this is where we can use the little rift kit thing. Okay, so when you have an advantage, right, you kind of have two choices. You can either play for plates, which is what they could have done. They could have stayed here, and then they could have played for these, and they could have funneled more gold onto this. But the problem is, if you're committing to playing to plates, then your jungler has to play around you, right? So this guy has to protect you, which means that he has to play through bot side. This means that the top side becomes available, and if the jungler here is playing around top, then this top laner is forced to play back. And this duo can look to play for Herald. So even if you get the plate spot and you get these kills and this guy gets more gold, these guys will get Herald, and this Herald can be used to gain control back over the map. And if they then use this Herald to take mid lane tower, then even though like you're ahead, you lose a lot of control, right? So because you want to keep this duo and their momentum going, what you do instead is you push bot. They took a couple plates, which is great, but then if you swap them top, you now have the opportunity to play through the top lane. Let me just clear all this. Yeah. So you now play through the top lane, right? So you move your top laner down here, you move this guy up here, and you move this guy up here. And then your jungler can now play through these guys. And if this jungler tries to play through here, oh, what's that? 3 versus 2. As you can see, this number wins. So these guys would end up killing this, and they would also end up killing this. Sucks for them. So what they would normally do is swap. So then these guys also go up top, and then you end up in exactly the same lane matchup. You can also play for more plates because you win that lane matchup, but you can take these plates, and you get access to the Rift Herald. So it's like win-win-win. So you can get the same number of plates as if like... And also trying to take the last 2 plates takes so much time. It really does take a huge amount of time. It's just not worth it. So you want to try and keep the snowball going. So that's why you swap to top. If you take nothing away from all this weird drawing, the basic premise is you want to keep the snowball going. And the best way to do that is by utilizing things like the Rift Herald. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okie dokie. So, continuing on. They now have the Rift Herald. So now they have a choice. Now they have a choice. Now they have the Rift Herald, they have a choice. They can try and play through top. That's option number 1. They can take advantage of the fact that they have a pushing lane and that they have the Rift Herald and Mowgli and they can keep pushing. However, if the jungler comes in a 3 versus 3, these guys can't dive. So all that happens is the Rift Herald hits the tower, it gets you a couple plates, and you probably don't secure it. Makes you sad, right? But it's one option. It's one option that they have. Not a terrible option. It's just perhaps not the best one. Alternatively, you generate pressure here, and you keep your AD carry top, and you bring your support down to mid. You bring the jungler down to mid, and then you use the Herald where you have numbers advantage. So you can see that Vitality have sent Sylas down to bot lane in the solo lane, which doesn't make a huge amount of sense because Cavalshard's TP is coming up soon, but I guess he just wanted to catch the wave. And maybe they just also want the Karma into the Jace matchup. I'm not entirely sure. That would make sense because I think Jace would be really difficult for a Sylas to deal with. Anyway, they move the Karma here, and so I would assume that Mowgli actually comes down to mid. He pushes out bot, and he also rotates up to this, and then you want a numbers advantage. So you then use the Herald with the numbers advantage to threaten the tower. And not only does that guarantee more plates, but you also run the risk of diving the opposition. This forces them to split apart. This then allows Attila to also threaten this top tower. So you can basically generate pressure on multiple lanes, well, mainly through two, to maximize the amount of gold that your team can generate along with turret damage. So I think the best option for Vitality would be to path mid, have Jack Troll come down bot, and then threaten this tower with the Herald. And that way you're just keeping the money going. Ooh, so what Broxah did there was, because Bwipo has pressure on mid lane, he actually gets to move first, and there was a risk of a collapse of these two overstaying. So they could generate a 4 versus 2 situation, given that Mowgli's just based. So him going top is fine. His red is still up, which sucks for him, but I also think it makes sense. So Jizuke can stay bot, and he can get this tower. It's good stuff for him. He also... Well, it looks like he doesn't win this 1 versus 1. Oh, maybe he does. Wait. Ah! Okay. A lot of things just happened here. So remember what we said. You can rotate your members down. But I think they only should have rotated their support down, because there's no reason for the Garen and Yuumi to stay top. But also, what's the... So the Volibear walks into the river, sees Lucian, tries to force a fight. This is such a massive mistake from Jack Troll. The game plan is to go mid and use the Herald to threaten the tower, and you generate a numbers advantage. And if they come through river, they should be zoned away from the wave as well. So you could even look to force a fight against them there too. But instead, he hard commits into a fight, and then Attila follows him, and they find themselves in a 2 versus 4 because they have 2 members pushing mid lane. Oh, man. And then, sure, they come close to finding a couple kills, but the Yuumi plays really well and keeps everyone alive, and it ends up being a 2 for 4. So it went from, one, a massive misplay from Vitality into an outplay from Fnatic, which is so big for Fnatic, because like this slows the game down a lot. All that gold that Vitality wanted to keep funneling into their carries ends up getting lost. It's like that early snowball that they started to pick up for themselves, all those early kills that was really good for them. Like this really puts a damper on their snowball. And the fact that Jizuke lost his flash in the 1v1 bot as well. Like a lot of things just happened that were really bad for Vitality. And like, sure, the thing is, this isn't a mistake from Broxah. He has the freedom to move here because he has support from his team. Jack Troll doesn't. Him trying to force this was a massive mistake. In my opinion, Attila should have stayed top. But even if he doesn't, you have control over the river. So you get to zone these Fnatic members away from coming to the wave while the Rift Herald hits the mid tower. But instead you go for a fight, and you end up dying. And that was really bad. Jack Troll messed up there. So, now what happens? Alright. Oh wait, we were going to talk about what happens next. Wow. It should be pretty obvious at this point. Dragon is the next point of focus. It's another Infernal. It's really important. Now imagine if Vitality had played the earlier Infernal better, they could be working towards 2 Infernals right now. I mean, a part of this just comes across as greed. It's like Vitality just would rather fight than take the safer, better play. So now the Garen is TPing bot with Yuumi. So Fnatic is saying, we want a 5v5. This is best case scenario for Vitality, because at this point in the game, they should be stronger. I need to see builds. Yeah, well, it's close. It's real close. But I would give them an advantage. I think so. It's close, though. In any case, Dragon gets started off. So there's no Karma TP yet. She should flank with the team. She doesn't want to flank. So that's why that ward is there. Get her in. What's Jizuke doing? Jizuke trying to flank from behind. Okay. What? Okay, so that's bad from Attila, right? So, like, look at this communication right now. Okay, so Fnatic are grouped up, and they're utilizing the strength of their comp, which is effectively poke. And they're just chipping away at Vitality as they're starting this Drake. So the first thing to note, before we even get that, is Vitality have pushed in bot, right? They gain access to the river first, but they can't push in mid because, you know, there's no wave to contest. So we can forget mid wave, like the waves aren't super relevant right now. Because Vitality ended up just starting the Drake in this neutral zone, it's a 5 versus 4 effectively right now, and Fnatic's comp, again, really good at disengaging, also a lot of poke. So when you start these objectives, it can be very difficult to actually fight if you end up taking all this poke. So you just have to hard engage. So Jack Troll is here, and he's like, I'm gonna engage. I'm going. I'm gonna jump in, I'm gonna engage. While Jizuke is setting up a flank. He's not even in position to flank yet. And why is he flanking? Who's he going to flank onto? Why not just follow him? Follow the Mowgli. Just go in with him. I mean, maybe if you get a good flank off, sure. But he's nowhere in position, and this guy's like, I'm going in. Follow me. He tosses the Garen, who's like, oh, I don't care. I'm Garen. Even if you kill me, I don't do anything anyway. I'm Garen. Broxah steals away the Drake. Jizuke comes in. He's like, whoopah! And then he gets kicked out as well, which is quite funny. Good kick. But you think, oh, this is great. Attila can now just kill him. Which he does. They do that. But Olaf is dead. So now the front line is dead. And Nemesis and Bwipo are alive while Jizuke's not in the fight. So Reckless tanks while Bwipo kills. And then Jizuke joins the fight and dies. Oh, man. These are like massive communication issues for Vitality. I don't know what it is, but now the game is even. Now the game is even. And Vitality's comp never wanted this. They wanted to be ahead. And there are so many instances of where Vitality played this game poorly. And like Fnatic punished them. Like, I just don't understand why. I mean, like, maybe this works out if he doesn't get kicked out, but he jumps onto a Lee Sin, so I'm not sure what else could have happened in that situation. Yeah. So Vitality get the mid lane tower. But now, Reckless, even though he was put massively behind early game, and notice how he's even in levels with Attila. Hylissang is actually ahead in levels against Jack Troll. He has his Black Cleaver completed now. And now it's actually really easy for them to move around the map. So that's what they're doing. So now we see another fight top. And this fight top, I thought was actually bad at the time. And I still think it's bad. They don't actually convert it into anything, though. But let's recap. So, what do Fnatic want? Fnatic want these outer towers, right? The best way to secure an outer tower is to generate numbers. They have TP, so you can send Bwipo or Nemesis towards bot lane, and they can catch that wave. Bwipo's in base right now, so sending him bot would make the most sense. This trio should push out mid and then rotate top, and they should threaten the tower. That should be the play. Because then Attila and Jackdaw will catch the wave. So they rotate up. Okay, so I think Broxer is the one messing up right now. Because he should be going top with them. What's he even going for right now? Where's he going? What's Broxer doing? Wait. Hold up. Let's follow Broxer. So he goes mid. He then starts pathing bot. Why? Why is he pathing bot? And then he starts pathing top. What? Does anyone in chat know? Anyone at all? He wanted to gank Jizuke? You think that guy's getting ganked? I mean, like, maybe. They don't even have vision of him right now. They don't even know if he's there. He could have based. So I don't think it's that. I mean, maybe it's that. I mean, so like, the thing is, I literally just said, right, the next play is they want outer towers. They want bot, mid, and top, okay? The easiest tower for Fnatic to get right now is the top lane one. Number one, because Bwipo was winning pretty hard early on and already did a lot of damage to that top lane tower. But number two, because Fnatic get prio over mid, because the duo isn't there. So if you watch the minimap for a second, look at how the Garen and the Yuumi get to access the wave first, so they push. So, and given that you have control of a top river, you get to move. So you should move up towards top, and then you just threaten the tower, and the jungler should be doing the same. The jungler should be right behind Nemesis, or doing his Gromp. He can do his Gromp if he wants. I only just realized that's even up. He can do that, he can follow Nemesis, whatever. He can even get a bit of deep vision down, so that he gives Bwipo a ward to TP to. And they should never set up to dive. All they should do is look to threaten the tower. And then once they threaten the tower, then they peel back off. And then you move between the lanes, and you keep the ebb and flow. And you just kind of, and that's why I remember saying in the cast, the game should slow down right now. So, mistake number one is Broxer shouldn't have gone bot. The play is always to go mid. The second is Nemesis engaging this. Because Sylas is in a much better position to TP because he just pushed out bot. Bwipo is not. Bwipo has to catch that wave and push it out. Fnatic also dropped that ward into Krugs, and then they saw Mowgli. And with that information, they should have known, we can't force this. Now, he very nearly kills Cabochard, yes. But even then, he's put himself in a situation where he can get collapsed upon. And the bot lane is rotating up. Like, I think there's so much that, like, in the end, like, initially, this play looks fine. But it's really not. Especially given the Brox is not there, and the duo's already starting to rotate up. Because, like, Fnatic didn't generate so much pressure that the bot lane can't answer. They're going to start rotating. And the jungler's not here as well. If the jungler's here with Nemesis, then I think the play can work. Because you quickly execute Cabochard, and then you can turn your attention onto Jizuke, and you're in a 5 versus 4. But I have no idea what Brox is doing. Makes zero sense. He shouldn't have gone bot. So then Vitality get their lead back. That was terrible. So now this Lucian has 2 items. Yeah, but imagine that Lee Sin was there. Jump in, kick Karma in the face, dead. Boom. Now Karma's dead. Now we have a 5 versus 4, and Jizuke is in a 1 versus... What is it? In a 2 versus 5? Execute Jizuke. Just as he TP's in. And now this fight isn't so bad anymore, is it? Yeah, people aren't allowed to vote for Broxer as MVP of the split. Sorry. I have too many examples of him making really weird decisions. Oh! Okay. Let's backtrack for a second. Maybe Broxer just is next level insane. Maybe. That's the only thing it could be. There are no camps or objectives, but it has to have been a call to gank Jizuke. Yeah, but even then, like... Why? Why would you try and gank Jizuke? Unless they assume that he's going to overextend. Which is like a really bold decision to make. If they just sit there and assume Jizuke is going to overextend in a bot lane and they can kill him. Maybe. The decision itself, the logic doesn't make much sense to me. They thought they couldn't get the tower so easily without an all-in, so they tried to take bot tower, even though it was not the best decision. It's not, no. Imagine then Jizuke would stay bot to push, and the rest would just... Well, so what Jizuke would do is Jizuke could rotate mid to catch the wave, while Attila and Jackdraw rotate top to defend the tower. So then Bwipo would push out bot, and then he would have a window to move with his team, while Jizuke would then have to move bot and help and catch that wave. And so this period of the game was supposed to just be a lot of, like, changing lanes and moving back and forth, right? And Vitality's goal would be to try and force a fight somewhere. Given that Jizuke had TP, he would try and use these windows to find a fight that they literally just found. While Fnatic would just try and slowly chip away at these towers and continue to stall. Because, you know, the whole goal of their comp is much more about later into the game when they can poke a lot more effectively. Yeah, this was just as I was praising Jackdraw as well. I felt like Jackdraw overall had like a good game for the most part. Because also remember, I didn't get to see that death on the minimap, so I wasn't sure of what happened. So Jackdraw is... Okay, so Vitality push in mid as 5. So we don't get to see the reset, do we? So we don't get to see the reset. We don't see how they come back out onto the map. But they have 5 people mid lane. Not quite sure how that happened, but I guess given that no one has teleport, it's fine. So now that they have the push in mid, they want to gain river control. This is very dangerous from Jackdraw, but because he sees the Jace, and I think he saw Broxer as well, and he knows where the Corki is, he thinks he's safe. But even then, you see that he doesn't even get a chance to clear that one out. So he drops the ward, and then the thing is, the rest of his team is catching mid-wave. I mean, like, this is, in my opinion, this is quite good from Fnatic, because they use their fog to look for a pick, and they find it onto Jackdraw. But Jackdraw took a really greedy path here. He should never have really moved into the enemy jungle. He should have just cleared out the river with the rest of his team. And again, like, this is where it comes back to communication issues with Vitality. It feels like a lot of them have their own idea of what they want to do, and they don't let the rest of their team know, so the rest of their team can't sit there and go, hey, that's dangerous. Hey, watch out. Maybe you shouldn't do that. So then they end up in a fight. Which, of course, Fnatic is going to win because they have 5 people. So Kavashad dies, and then Broxer thinks, hey, I can kick Attila in. And I understand the idea, but he flubs the execution. Whoop. Yep. Yep. So that's pretty bad. No, 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 does. Attila plays this well, but also, look, see that ward there? Right, so he puts a ward there. And then he flashes. And he's dead. That was just greedy. So, what happens now? Well, Fnatic, because they got a bunch of kills, get to push top and mid, so they get 2 towers for free. Easy peasy. They get to sneak away that. They push in bot, they push in mids. They get to set up for Drake. But everyone's resetting. Meanwhile, Jack Troll getting deep vision again. Really dangerous. Super dangerous. You could have died there again. You can't just get vision for free when you don't have pressure anywhere. Otherwise you die. So it's funny because now... Excuse me. Now we're getting to a point in the game where the poke is like really powerful from Fnatic. Because the level 11s have come through for a lot of them. And they've completed their second items. And the Yuumi is now really strong. And Garen is tanky enough that he actually just gets to walk up to the lane and zone people away just because he has a Yuumi on him. And Attila's now behind Reckless. Because he got 2 kills. And then they just run away. So what Vitality keep doing is grouping mid. When they should be trying to like... So Cavachard resets after basing... Why do they... They can't even force this engage. What are you trying to do? So, notice Bwipo pushing in bot. Notice where Nemesis is. And look at where the jungler is. So this is an ideal setup. You're making a trade. You're saying, I do not care about top lane. We have pressure mid. And because we have a big wave, what we can transition this into is to a wave stacking on bot. Right? Because you have this setup and you have a wave behind you, and you've got this wave. Notice how he's like in front of the wave. So he has a small wave and a second wave coming up from behind him. So they'll have 2 big waves that they can use to then start threatening this tower. So they push in mid and then they collapse through enemy jungle and they've got all the vision set up. Like, this setup from Fnatic is ideal for what they want to do next. Whereas Vitality, they don't try to cross-map. Their choice is, well, okay, if you're going to push in bot, we'll try and force an engage mid. But Cavachard isn't in a position to follow up because he doesn't have teleport. So they just tried to force an all-in, 4 versus 3, and of course, Reckless is just like, well, I'm on Garen, I'm really quick, I can just run away. And Nemesis can react to either situation. He can either help push bot, or he can help mid. So he chooses to help mid. And then watch. They'll push. And what they should do... Oh, but then now Vitality choose to engage. But they can't. So he should have stayed bot, in my opinion. Oh, I suppose actually he can just come in and kill everyone. That's also an option. But Vitality's answer here was to try and force an engage. And a part of me feels that it's not the worst thing in the world, because again, they get outscaled. The best thing they can hope for is try and force a fight, but you can't engage on this comp because you have no hard CC. The best you have is Jackdraw running at you. And I feel like Righteous Glory would have made more sense. But they did not do it. Yeah, Fnatic had the perfect setup here for whatever they wanted to do. Whereas Vitality were in a bit of a haphazard situation. They could have looked to, like, trade. So you trade top tower for bot tower. But then Bwipo comes in. I feel like he could have stayed and just kept pushing bot. But he saw that they could win a fight there. So that's what they did. His intuition was better than mine. So now they push in mid. Corki's pushing in bot. And now they have a choice. They can try to play through top, or they can play through bot. But notice how hard they push in mid lane, so that they can now rotate bot afterwards. So now Vitality have to catch this wave. Nemesis is here with a wave, and the rest of the team follow up. So like, this is where I think, like, this is why. So Fnatic do a lot of dumb stuff, right? We've seen that, and a lot of it, to be fair, comes from Broxah. But when they work as a team at like this point in the game, 20 minutes on, their fundamentals in terms of how to manage their side waves and use pressure is good. they also have just good players, so they can turn things around. So even though this team has a lot of issues, in the sense that like Broxah makes a lot of decision-making mistakes, and Hylissang sometimes just runs it down, and Bwipo sometimes tries to force fights that he definitely can't win, they're able to just rectify it because, you know, they compensate in other ways. And this is the frustrating thing about Fnatic, because if they fix these issues, imagine how good they would be. They could probably actually really challenge G2. But they don't. I don't think so anyway. So now they push in bot. I think this was fine because they want to reset anyway. And at this point, like, Vitality don't really have any options left. They have to try and force an engage, force a fight, because they've now officially been outscaled. Why does Vedius, Reddit tomorrow, why does Vedius hate Broxah? I'll just link him the timestamps. I don't hate Broxah. He's a super nice dude. I got to work with him on that shoot that I did with him. He's really friendly. He's a good bundle of laughs. But in terms of the League of Legends that I am watching, I can only be critical, I'm afraid. So now they care about Baron. So they play around the top side of the map. So again, notice how they push in mid. They push in top. Move towards the Baron. Jack Troll gonna try and put some wards down, but then they move into the enemy jungle as waves are caught. And back to mid lane. You don't go back to top because the wave is much longer and it takes ages to get there, so you push in mid. Once again, move into the enemy jungle. Clear it all out. Step by step, systematic, and this is the triangle vision. So someone asked me what the triangle vision is. It's like ward, ward, ward. That's what the triangle vision is. Because this gives you access to one entrance, entrance number 2, and then this is when they try to come over from behind the pit. That's what triangle vision is. So now they go for Drake, which in my opinion, a little greedy. Okay, they don't good. That's a fast Garen. So they push in mid. The rest of Vitality reset. I'm not sure there's much left to review in this game, so we'll just kind of skim through the end. Because at this point, you can't engage on Fnatic, because you just can't. And Yumi's gone full AP, so you never kill her. It's just so much damage. Oh, 80 carries forced to flash. Yeah, so like Fnatic are dragging this out a little bit. They could just do Baron and then they could, you know, end, but it's fine. I like the fact that Nemesis uses TP so they don't lose too much in tempo. I hate that word so much. I shouldn't use it. Anyway, they push out top. They reset again. Why did he TP if you're all just gonna reset? I don't agree. Anyway, they have all the luxuries in the world. Vitality really messed this game up, and this is part of the problem. Like, ooh. Whoop, 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 poke, 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 poke. Can't kill Garen because he's too fast and he's too tanky. And here comes the kill onto Jack Troll, I think. Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. Bop bang. And they take mid in him. I think they could have done Baron a lot earlier than this. I think they should have just not cared about Cloud Drake. They had all the vision set up around the top side of the map. So yeah. I'd love to tell you that there's more to review really in this game, but there's not really. Fnatic have pretty good. They're just playing the patient game. They're utilizing their poke. They're not overcommitting. Very, very patient. Go back to clearing everything out. They'll reset, restock all their vision. They reset at the same time. That's good. Jack Troll just dies. You can see how obnoxious this comp is. Bang. Vitality get to move back in towards the top side a little bit, clear out some of the vision. But they won't be able to get any river vision, which is the biggest thing. So Fnatic, you'll notice that a lot of them have 2 control wards. And that's because, whereas... Notice, just look at the difference in inventories. You can see that Vitality have no wards left because they've just used all of it to reclaim vision. So Fnatic now get to move into the topside jungle and clear everything out again. So Vitality now have no vision in their inventory and no vision on the map. And so they see nothing. And Fnatic still have vision left over in the event that Vitality try and put some more down. Yep. So they get starved. Very good, Baron. Very, very good. See? Fnatic's playing very well right now. As a team. So the thing that's difficult to do, I imagine, well, just I mean, because I can't really do it in cast yet. So you notice throughout this VOD view, I've stopped it, and I've said, okay, let's think about what we want to do next, or let's think about what the teams want to do next, right? Pro players have to do the same thing, except they don't get to pause. So in a live environment, you've got to think about what does the enemy want to do next, and what do we want to do next. And if you're not thinking about both these things, you can get punished for it. And this is the difference between a good team and a great one. It's all well and good if you can execute your win conditions well, but to be a great team, you have to recognize your enemy's win conditions, play around that, along with then playing towards your own. Yeah, that was just a last-ditch effort engage from Vitality. And they couldn't really get much off the back of it. I think Fnatic could have been a little quicker in how they ended this game, personally. I think they could have just abandoned the Cloud Drake and just gone straight for Baron. And there you go. Yeah, and like it's a lot harder to do, and very few teams in the world can do it. I think G2 is one of those teams, personally, that can do it. But, like, that's why Jankos gets a lot of praise, because he thinks constantly about, like, what's going on now, what needs to happen, what has happened. And so I think that in this game we can see a very clear example of what we saw was Vitality knew what they wanted to do, and then their execution flubbed because they greeded. A lot of the times they just went for a fight or went for kills rather than just playing for the objective. They gave up first Infernal when they didn't need to. They gave up an advantage that they had with the Rift Herald when they didn't need to. And then they went for deeper vision when they didn't need to. And there were just a lot of situations where Vitality could have won this game. And if they just followed through with the plan, they probably would have come out better. Now, that's not to say that they for sure would have won, because if they couldn't have ended before this comp got online, then they would have just been outscaled and it would have been disaster. But they had the opportunity to snowball. They had pretty much the perfect early game start, and then they threw it away. I think Cabashard personally had a pretty weak game. I think he got caught out and overextended a bunch of times. Didn't agree with a lot of decisions he made. And then I think we saw a lot of poor decisions from Broxer. Multiple times throughout this game, I was like, what is he doing here? Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? Why is he doing this? And yeah. So in the end, Fnatic did win. Their fundamentals, I think, in terms of how they managed their sideways and how they utilized pressure, was better. And then once they got to the point at which they were strong enough to contest and they'd punished Vitality enough, then it was a lot easier for them to win. And this is the thing. Even if Fnatic falls behind early, if they get the game to neutral, as a team, they are smart enough to know, and they have good enough players to know how to win. It's just when a lot of their early game is dictated by what their jungler does, and a lot of the decisions that he makes doesn't make a lot of sense, I think they struggle. Which is why right now I think Splice is stronger than them. But the difference between Fnatic and Splice is I think Fnatic have stronger individual players. But you could even debate that right now. You could. So yeah. Anyway, that was a VOD review. That was it. That was the game. The Garen Yuumi ended up being excellent. later on into the game. It got heavily punished early on, as it should have. And I think Vitality did a really good job of showcasing how you shut down that Garen in the bot lane, personally. So yeah, that pretty much does it. So thank you for watching on the YouTubes. You can check out the other VODs. I do them every week. I also stream every Monday at 6 p.m. CEST on twitch.tv/Vedius Official. Be sure to come in. As a note, if you stuck around all the way till the end, I will start probably next week reviewing some of the playoff games from the big region. So we'll probably look at LPL, LCK, LEC, and LCS. How I kind of fit that all in and still need to figure out, but it's important for Worlds prep, and I think it's cool if I can share some of that Worlds prep with everyone, and we can like plan that stuff going into Worlds. So gonna stop the recording now. Thank you very much for watching on YouTube, and I'll see you in the next one.